Let's take a look at another option as to how we can find if a critical point is a max or a min, or neither. This one's called the second derivative test. It basically does the exact same thing as the first derivative test. So let's say again we have some function that looks something like this. Well, we have already found through whatever means we did, we took the derivative and set it equal to 0, basically, and we found our three critical points. Great, but we don't have a graph. How can I tell that this one is obviously a maximum, and this one's a min, and this one's neither? Well, the answer to that is either the first derivative test, or in this case, we're going to do the second derivative test. Now, the second derivative test looks at the second derivative, which talks about concavity. So keep in mind that if a graph looks like this, that has a negative concavity, and the second derivative is negative. Whereas if it looks like this, it has positive concavity. Now, an interesting thing happens. Whenever you have a graph that has negative concavity, meaning it's opening down, it will have a maximum if there's a critical point. Likewise, if it's opening up, it will have a minimum. And to be honest, I don't ever remember that. If I want to remember that, I'm just going to draw a concave up graph, much like I just did, and say, oh, look, it has a minimum. That way you don't really have to memorize that. But now that we've taken that into consideration, let's go ahead and take our second derivative at each of these critical points. Well, at this point, is it opening up or opening down? Well, it's obviously opening down. So it's concave down, which means it has a maximum. We don't even have to look at the graph. We know that since it's concave down at a critical point, it has a maximum. And that's the second derivative test. So we'll do the same thing here. It's concave up. Now here, this is neither. That's unfortunate, because if we have a neither, it means the second derivative test failed. We don't know. So for that point, we actually have to do the first derivative test, which, if you ask me, just makes the whole thing pointless. So I wouldn't even bother with that. So basically, we just found the second derivative at each of these critical points. And that's why it's called the second derivative test. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe to the channel. That way you won't miss out on any more helpful hints.